Hi, I'm in Podgorica. If I pronounced that right, I think I did. I've heard it numerous ways. But, anyways, I wanted to talk about my experience visiting the clinic here because I've been very, very sick. And I'm still sick, still stuffed up, but I am so much better than I was when I arrived on Monday night. It is now Saturday evening, late afternoon, Saturday. Um, and I wrote it all down so I would remember how it went. But anyways, I arrived Monday evening around 8 or 9, and I had gotten progressively worse as I was flying here on Monday. And I was really exhausted, and that's when I really realized that it wasn't allergies and I was really sick. So Tuesday morning, I knew I wasn't going to waste any time, and I didn't want things to get really, really bad. So I figured, what do I have to lose to go to the doctor, right? So I went to the clinic around 10 o'clock. It's just a few blocks walk, thank goodness. And they immediately sent me back to a room, and the doctor was sitting there waiting in the room. No, there was no sitting in the waiting room. There was no sitting, we'll take you back to a room and waiting for the doctor to come in. No, I went straight to the room, no waiting, and the doctor was sitting there at his desk in the exam room and ready for me. And he did an exam, he checked my breathing, all the typical things that, they would do. Check your temperature, everything. And then he ordered a chest x-ray and a blood draw. And so then I left his office and went back to the waiting room, and they directed me 2 doors down and you'll get your tests. So I went 2 doors down, got my tests. They, I don't know, it took about 10 minutes to do the chest x-ray, and then the blood draw real quick. There was no waiting at all, just did it directly. And then they charged me €50, which is 50, where I wrote it down. Sorry. Um, €50, which at that point in time anyway was 56.89 USD. So I paid that, and then I go back to the original clinic, go back again 2 doors down, and then no, I'm not saying this. Sorry. So then I got my tests, and I come back and I go back to see the doctor, and he's still sitting waiting there for me, and he had my test results. Yeah. There was no, we'll have your test results in hours, or, in a few hours, or we'll have your test results in a couple days. No, he was looking at my chest x-ray. I saw it. I had I guess a normal, I had inflammation, no surprise. And I've had this, it doesn't hurt. It just sounds really horrible. My cough sounds really bad. But anyways, so yeah, so I was at, normal was like 10%, and I was at like 39%. No big surprise. And then yeah, the blood draw, everything was perfectly fine and normal. And so anyways, then I go out, and he writes me a prescription. Sorry, I'm still a little foggy from this cold, but anyways, okay. So yeah, then I paid for the doctor appointment, which was another €50, so another $56.89, I believe I said. Yeah, and he writes a prescription for an antibiotic. And, antibiotics work on, what is it, bacterial infections and not viral infections, right? But I said, yeah, I want the antibiotic. And I really believe it made a difference. I think I'm glad that I did. So it's probably bacterial. But anyways, neither here nor there. So, and he also suggested a nasal spray, which I don't really like nasal sprays, but I actually used it for the first time today because I'm tired of blowing my nose, and it really helped. And the antibiotic I'm just supposed to take until Monday. So I'm almost done. I only have 2 more days of it, 7 days. And then, yeah, I paid for those 2. So, and then I went down around the corner, like a couple more doors down, and there's the pharmacy. And immediately there was no waiting in line there either. And I got my antibiotic and I got the nasal spray. And that cost was $19.19 USD. So the total cost for everything was $132.97. Now, it took about 40 minutes total, and they don't take insurance. They just treat you. Insurance is handled on my end. If I want to submit a claim to my insurance company, then I can do that. Now, for $132.97, I'm not going to do that. But how wonderful is that? In the first of all, I was done with everything in 40 minutes and could start taking the antibiotic and get some relief and some rest and not worry so much. And in the US, I'd be sitting in the waiting room for probably 3 hours, if not longer. And then waiting for the doctor, and then having to go to the pharmacy, and all these, and everything was just conveniently located right next to each other because it's logical and made perfect sense, right? and and it was just really efficient. They all spoke English, and I felt really well cared for, and I was just in absolute shock. I had a feeling it might go like that. I know it's like that in some countries, but I didn't know how it would be in Montenegro. Anyway, so what else did I want to say? Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. But I just wanted to share that. I was really, really blown away because you just can't get care like that in the US. And also in the US, they'd be like, well, we need to see your insurance before we can treat you. And the cost. I mean, the cost of the prescription and the cost of everything I felt really reasonable. So, what do you think? I think the US is way behind.